Tonight, ABC News has learned that the United States has been supporting a certain kind of military action within Iran for over a year. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross joins us now. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening, Martin. Pakistani and U.S. intelligence sources tell ABC News that the U.S. has been secretly advising and encouraging a militant group that has carried out a series of guerrilla raids inside Iran, raids that have led to the deaths or capture of Iranian soldiers and officials. The group operates out of the Baluchistan province in Pakistan, just across the border from Iran. The group, made up of Baluchi tribesmen, has produced its own videos showing Iranian soldiers and border guards it says it has captured and brought back to Pakistan. One tape shows what it says is the execution of a Revolutionary Guard official. U.S. government sources say the U.S. provides no direct funding to the group, but since 2005 has maintained close ties to its youthful leader, this man, Abdel Malik Rigi, who claims to have personally executed some of the Iranian captives.
He used to fight with the Taliban. He's part drug smuggler, part Taliban, part Sunni activist.
They go across the border there.
And they're based mainly here.
Alexei Deba, a senior fellow on counterterrorism at the Nixon Center and an ABC News consultant, says tribal sources have told him Rigi and his group, called Jundullah, are getting money funneled through Iranian exiles who have connections to European and Gulf state countries.
He is essentially commanding a force of several hundred guerrilla fighters that stage attacks across the border into Iran on Iranian military officers, Iranian intelligence officers.
Last year, Iran actually paid a $1.3 million ransom to get the release of some of their kidnapped border guards. And who do they pay it to?
They are escorted by Pakistani intelligence into Pakistan to meet with Jundullah officials and probably Regi himself to make the exchange, to give the money and get the hostages back. So Pakistani intelligence in many ways is involved in that.
Most recently, Jundullah took credit for an attack in February that killed at least 11 members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards in the city of Zahedan. Last month, Iranian state television broadcast what it said were confessions by those responsible for the bus attack. The TV report interspersed the confessions with the logo of the CIA, which it accused of organizing the plot, something the CIA strongly denies. The captured militants reportedly admitted to being members of Jundullah and said they had been trained for the mission at a secret location in Pakistan.
This absolutely could not happen without the approval at most senior level of the Pakistani government.
In fact, Pakistani sources say the secret campaign against Iran was on the agenda when Vice President Cheney met with Pakistani President Musharraf in February. Some analysts fear it is a policy that will backfire for the U.S. in Iran.
I don't think it makes sense at all. The center of gravity of this government is its Farsi-speaking Iranian population. They're the ones who control the action. And to the extent you start playing games with the minorities in the country, the more you anger this group, and among this group are vast numbers of people unhappy with the regime. The more you bother them by playing games with the minorities, the more they tend to rally around the clerical regime, corrupt or not.
But there are signs someone is trying to organize the country's disparate minority groups. This well-produced website has just recently appeared online, purporting to be the work of a group called the Oppressed Nations Organization. It has its own national flag, representing the Baluchis, the Arabs, and other minority groups in Iran.
There is a suspicion that the United States, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, other governments in the region who are worried about Iran have come to the conclusion that the ethnic minority issue is the Iranian regime's Achilles heel. It's much more likely to respond to an ethnic challenge from within.
Finally, there is the ironic twist that the group the U.S. has been secretly advising and encouraging, Jundullah, shares many of the same religious beliefs and violent tactics of al-Qaeda itself.
We already got burned with the Taliban, with turning a blind eye or supporting this kind of a thing in Afghanistan. Supporting al-Qaeda type groups in the Middle East, if that indeed is the case, will come and bite us at some point.
The only relationship the U.S. government will acknowledge with this group is accepting help in tracking al-Qaeda figures in this part of Pakistan. Otherwise, U.S. officials strongly deny any direct funding for action against Iran. Martin?
Brian, what is the objective in sponsoring these attacks within Iran? What does the administration hope to achieve by this?
The administration has spoken several times about the importance of the minority groups in Iran, and an attempt to destabilize the central government in Tehran can flow out of the effort they believe of stirring up, essentially, the minority groups across the country.
There's clearly no direct relationship between the news you've been breaking tonight and the fate of those 15 British soldiers, but what does it tell us about the pressures that are being exerted on the regime in Tehran?
Well, Martin, whatever the CIA is or is not doing, certainly the Iranian government believes in its heart that the CIA is behind all of these attacks. So that tempers and clouds and colors every decision they made. And in fact, when those 15 British sailors were captured, Iranian officials went on TV locally and said, they're here to stir up the minorities. And this was a way to sell it to the Iranian people that the British and the U.S. are out to get us.